In statistics, we always start by assuming we are wrong. We assume there is no meaningful effect, no difference, and no connection in our experiment. We call this the null hypothesis, and we can visualize that skepticism as a simple bell curve. To challenge that default assumption, we gather experimental data and compress it into a single unified measurement called a test statistic. That statistic drops onto our timeline, showing us exactly how strongly our observed data contradicts our initial skepticism. We have to draw a line in the sand, most often a 5% probability threshold, known as a p-value. If our test statistic lands all the way out in this extreme tail, the data is so highly unusual that we confidently reject our default assumption and declare a discovery. Accepting a 5% error rate means we are willing to be wrong one time in 20. For an isolated single experiment, researchers accept that calculated risk as a necessary cost of making new scientific discoveries. But allowing a 5% risk guarantees that eventually, pure chance will produce a statistical fluke. We end up rejecting the null hypothesis when it is actually true, sounding an alarm over nothing. In statistics, this is known as a false positive or a type 1 error. If we try to prevent that by making our threshold much stricter, we require overwhelmingly strong data to prove anything. The math becomes blind to genuine signals. A real but subtle discovery falls short of the boundary and gets completely ignored, a false negative or a type 2 error. These two errors are mathematically locked together on a seesaw. If you adjust your mathematical threshold downward to protect yourself against false alarms, your risk of ignoring a real discovery automatically goes up. This delicate balance between statistical gullibility and blindness works perfectly when you are testing a single question. But if the scale of your experiment changes, that balance shatters. Modern data science no longer tests single hypotheses in a vacuum. A genomic researcher using a DNA microarray like this one might measure the expression of 10,000 distinct genes simultaneously. High-frequency traders analyze thousands of market variables every second. Think of a 5% error rate like a heavy coin that lands on heads one time in 20. If you flip it once, seeing heads is rare, but if you flip 1,000 coins at once, you are mathematically guaranteed to see dozens of heads. When we map that coin flip logic onto massive datasets, we are essentially running 10,000 distinct statistical tests side by side. Huge datasets act as perfect breeding grounds for statistical flukes that flawlessly mimic real discoveries. If all 10,000 of those genes actually have zero connection to a disease, applying our classical 5% error rate doesn't mean a 5% overall risk. It mathematically guarantees that we will generate exactly 500 false discoveries. By blindly scaling up a mathematical rule meant for a single test, the researcher has inadvertently manufactured a massive sea of highly convincing statistical lies. Statisticians measure the scale of this failure using the family-wise error rate. It calculates the probability of making at least one false positive across the entire family of tests you are running. Even if each individual test is highly accurate, running just a few dozen independent tests pushes the family-wise error rate to nearly 100%. The sheer volume of tests ensures that a false alarm is a certainty. For a researcher looking at a spreadsheet of results, the consequence is terrifying. Any genuine scientific signals hidden in the data are now completely indistinguishable from the guaranteed false alarms. Now, this creates a critical optimization problem. How do we mathematically force the total, system-wide probability of a false alarm back down to a safe 5%? To survive the scale of big data, researchers must abandon isolated single-test thresholds entirely, adopting aggressive system-wide defensive shields to filter out the noise. The classic mathematical solution to controlling the family-wise error rate is the Bonferroni correction. It divides your target 5% overall error rate by the total number of hypotheses. For 10,000 tests, it crushes the threshold down to 0.0005%. Because the boundary is now so strict, the 500 statistical false alarms instantly vanish. Order is restored. The Bonferroni method provides ultimate protection against statistical gullibility. If a data point manages to survive this punishingly strict threshold, the scientific finding is almost undeniably real. But that impenetrable shield carries a devastating hidden cost. The required threshold for proof is now so microscopic that it requires overwhelming, near impossible evidence to actually flag a discovery. In data science, we refer to a researcher's ability to successfully detect true positive signals and genuine discoveries in the wild as their statistical power. Under the Bonferroni correction, statistical power rapidly collapses. Genuine, moderate signals that hold real scientific value simply lack the strength to clear the oppressive new threshold. They fail to penetrate the shield and are discarded. This is the brutal irony of the zero-sum trade-off. By ruthlessly adjusting the math to eliminate the false positives, we have caused the false negatives to skyrocket. In the era of big data, absolute certainty isn't free. Protecting the truth from statistical noise often demands the tragic sacrifice of perfectly valid discoveries. In modern data science, we rarely run a single hypothesis test. Instead, we sequence genomes or analyze sensor arrays, executing thousands of tests simultaneously. If we use the standard threshold of evidence, a p-value of 0.05, on 20,000 tests, the math guarantees an error. Even if no actual effect exists anywhere in the data, we will flag 1,000 false positives purely by chance. The traditional defense against this is controlling the family-wise error rate, or FWER. It is a strict standard guaranteeing that the probability of making a single false positive across all tests remains at or below 5%. This chart maps statistical power against the family-wise error rate. The orange curve represents 10 tests. At a 5% error threshold, our power is 60%. But follow the purple curve for 500 tests. At that exact threshold, our power plummets to 0. Demanding absolute purity at high dimensions destroys the analysis. To find anything at all, we have to abandon the goal of 0 false positives. To uncover true signals in massive datasets, analysts must accept a specified margin of noise. This is the false discovery rate, or FDR. Instead of capping errors at 0, it controls the density of the noise. Setting a target rate at 20% ensures that, on average, no more than 20% of the dots passing through are false alarms. On any particular dataset, however, actually controlling that ratio is an impossible task. The analyst never knows which hypotheses are true or false, so they cannot be certain which rejected nulls are real discoveries. Because the total number of rejections acts as the denominator, a fixed p-value threshold is too blunt to maintain a specific balance. To manage the rate of discovery, we must move beyond static thresholds and use an algorithm that adapts its boundaries to the data it encounters. That dynamic boundary is calculated using the Benjamini-Hochberg procedure, the industry standard algorithm that turns the theoretical false discovery rate into a practical tool. The algorithm begins by gathering the p-values for all hypotheses, which could be thousands of tests, and sorting them sequentially from the smallest value to the largest. This set of charts shows 2,000 ordered p-values. Notice the flat green line in the leftmost panel. That is the rigid threshold for family-wise error rate. Contrast that with the middle panel, where the orange diagonal line represents the false discovery rate. That orange line is not static. Its threshold is determined by a linear equation, the target error rate, Q, multiplied by the test's specific rank index, J, divided by the total number of tests, M. As the index increases, the acceptable threshold slopes upward. In algorithmic terms, this creates a descending search. Think of it as a line sweeping downward across the sorted p-values, searching for the highest rank where the observed p-value is still less than or equal to that calculated threshold. Once it finds that intersection point, every single test below that line is rejected. They are all flagged as statistically significant discoveries. By tying the threshold to the data's distribution, the Benjamini-Hochberg procedure maximizes statistical power while strictly capping the average false discovery rate. Yet this procedure contains a distinct vulnerability. The entire calculation assumes that the p-values fed into it are mathematically accurate. Standard p-values are derived from a theoretical null distribution, a pristine, mathematically defined curve, like a normal or t-distribution. But real-world data rarely fits perfectly into pristine curves. Extremely small sample sizes or heavily skewed measurements violate the strict assumptions required for those theoretical models to work. This chart shows the test statistic for the 877th gene in a genomic dataset. The smooth red curve is the theoretical distribution. The jagged yellow bars represent the actual data. The mismatch is severe. Because of that skew, the theoretical formula calculates a p-value of 0.57, but measuring the actual area under the curve for the real data yields a p-value of 0.67. Feeding that into the algorithm injects hidden errors. When data violates mathematical assumptions, theoretical formulas become a liability. Instead of relying on a predefined curve, we have to force the dataset to build its own null distribution. We accomplish this through resampling, specifically a computational technique called permutation. It allows us to bypass the broken theoretical assumptions entirely. For data separated into a control and treatment group, we take the labels for those observations and randomly shuffle them thousands of times. By randomly swapping these labels, we deliberately destroy any real mathematical association between the groups. We artificially create a simulated universe where the null hypothesis is guaranteed to be true. We calculate our test statistics across thousands of these shuffled iterations. As the results compile, they build a highly accurate empirical null distribution drawn from the exact quirks and skews of the raw data. This top chart shows the results for a well-behaved teen. Notice how the yellow histogram bars built by our simulation perfectly align with the red theoretical curve. Using this simulation, we can calculate a plug-in false discovery rate. We take the expected number of false positives generated inside our permutation vortex and divide it by the actual number of discoveries we observe in the real, unshuffled data. This empirical approach perfectly mirrors the underlying philosophy of the false discovery rate. We let the physical realities of the dataset dictate our boundaries, rather than forcing the data to comply with rigid theory. This chart compares resampling against Benjamini-Hochberg across all 2,000 genes. The curves overlap almost entirely. Rejecting the top 500 genes yields a controlled false discovery rate of 17.7% under either method. Running massive simultaneous tests is an unavoidable reality of modern data analysis. Attempting to apply traditional zero-tolerance error controls to these dimensions will only bottleneck your discoveries. When your data behaves according to mathematical assumptions, the Benjamini-Hochberg procedure provides an elegant, efficient threshold. And when those assumptions fail, permutation resampling provides a computational safety net. Despite the intricate math underlying both approaches, implementing them in a modern environment requires minimal friction. Understanding the statistical geometry beneath these tests allows you to extract true signals from overwhelming noise, often using just a single line of code. When building automated data pipelines, deploying standard statistical tools at scale without algorithmic safeguards often triggers a cascade of false discoveries. The foundational unit of these tests is the p-value. In isolation, running a single hypothesis test with an alpha level of 0.05 is mathematically rigorous. It guarantees a tightly controlled error rate for that specific test. The hazard emerges when analysts take that exact same function and place it inside a for loop, evaluating hundreds or thousands of features simultaneously against the same threshold. To observe this failure computationally, we can simulate a dataset containing 100 variables. We engineer exactly 50 of these to contain a true statistical signal, while the remaining 50 consist of pure random noise. We then iterate through this array, using the SciPy stats library to execute a one-sample t-test on every individual variable to evaluate its mean against 0. By applying a tool designed for isolated manual analysis across an entire array, the system shifts from measuring probability to automatically generating false positives. When the loop finishes executing, the scope of the error becomes measurable. This confusion matrix charts our algorithm's decisions against the ground truth. If we isolate the 50 variables that we know contain absolutely no signal, we see that the test still rejected the null hypothesis for 5 of them. This failure is a direct result of the math. Applying a 5% error threshold to 50 true null hypotheses mathematically guarantees an expectation of at least 2.5 false positives by pure chance. This cumulative risk is defined as the family-wise error rate, or FWER. It measures the probability of making at least one type 1 error across all the hypothesis tests combined. To engineer reliable data pipelines, developers cannot evaluate thresholds iteratively. They must apply mathematical penalties to the entire family of tests. This problem compounds exponentially on real-world data. Consider a financial dataset tracking the performance of 2,000 independent mutual fund managers. The analytical objective is to test all 2,000 individuals to identify which specific managers consistently generate returns significantly above zero. To protect the FWER here, the most aggressive method is the Bonferroni correction. It takes the target alpha level of 0.05 and divides it by the total number of tests, lowering the required threshold for significance. This scatter plot maps 2,000 p-values. We draw a horizontal line at the new Bonferroni threshold. Not a single fund manager falls below it. Bonferroni guarantees 0 false positives, but crushes statistical power, committing type 2 errors by burying true signals. Alternative approaches, like Holmes' sequential step-down method, offer slight improvements over Bonferroni's rigidity, but they remain strictly tethered to guarding the overall family-wise error rate. FWER corrections enforce absolute mathematical safety, but when analyzing thousands of variables, that safety actively prevents financial or scientific discovery. Solving this requires a different conceptual target, managing the false discovery rate, or FDR. Instead of trying to eliminate errors completely, FDR intentionally accepts a bounded, predictable proportion of false positives. In exchange, the system uncovers a much higher volume of true signals. The algorithmic engine used to control this rate is the Benjamini-Hochberg procedure, which can be deployed directly through Python's Stats Models toolkit. This plot visualizes Benjamini-Hochberg. The algorithm sorts all 2,000 p-values from smallest to largest, then calculates a dynamic linear threshold based on rank. The algorithm rejects any null hypothesis where the p-value falls below this diagonal line. When we apply this to the fund dataset and set our FDR target, known as a Q-value, 2.1, the algorithm successfully identifies 146 managers beating the market. The cost of this discovery is clearly defined by the Q-value itself. We accept that exactly 10% of those 146 discoveries will be false positives. By utilizing the false discovery rate, hypothesis testing scales efficiently. It replaces the binary search for absolute truth with a precise risk management system. We can test the limits of these tools by shifting from finance to the Conn gene expression dataset in biology. The parameters here are highly dimensional. The algorithm must analyze 2,308 distinct genes to distinguish between different classes of cancer. The strict limitation in this environment is the sample size. There are only 54 total patient samples split between the two cancer classes. This chart highlights why computing a standard p-value here is dangerous. The theoretical calculation imposes a perfect student's t-distribution over the data, blindly assuming the samples follow this curve. When this assumption fails due to low sample sizes, the resulting p-values provide an inaccurate measure of the true error rate. To bypass these theoretical assumptions entirely, engineers rely on permutation testing. Mechanically, this works by completely randomizing and shuffling the patient labels within the dataset. This action intentionally severs any real relationship between the specific genes and the cancer types. By deliberately destroying the actual relationships, developers force the system to simulate exactly what baseline random noise looks like for their unique feature space. Generating this noise requires computational brute force. The Python script executes this label shuffling process, iterating the permutation cycle 10,000 distinct times. This histogram dynamically builds from those 10,000 simulated statistics, calculating new test statistics from the shuffled labels to generate a native null distribution. We then extract the empirical p-value by calculating the fraction that exceeds the real observed statistic. These empirical, custom-built p-values are then plugged directly back into the Benjamini-Hochberg algorithm, allowing us to evaluate all 2,308 genes safely. Managing statistical rigor at scale requires using computational power to adapt thresholds and empirically test the data against itself, bypassing rigid theoretical formulas.